Sheikh Tafier Najjaar. Welcome to the Manila Times. You are with the Islamic Council of South Africa. You came a long way.
Yeah,
Welcome, sir, to the Manila Times.
it's only a pleasure to be here and my honor to be here. And thank you for welcoming me.
Right. We were talking earlier. You said you were in the country to attend a conference.
Yeah.
Maybe you can tell us about the event that you came here for.
Yeah, I think let me start off by saying what we normally do culturally within the Islamic concept is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of the Almighty, the most merciful, and all praise and blessings towards him and his prophets from Adam to Prophet Muhammad and everyone that follows them. Yes, it's all about the halal that we are coming here for. And I think the concept of halal must be understood within the concept of that when we speak about halal, we speak actually about a service that is provided for people and not necessarily from a Muslim aspect, a monetary aspect.
Sure.
It is rather the service that is provided. And I think from that,
Okay.
from that particular angle, we look at halal as a service because halal is not only about the religious side of things, it is also looking like we find today people are very health conscious from a health point of view also. Scientifically, it has been proven that certain things that is claimed to be halal is very good to the health. And if we page through the Quran, we will understand that the Almighty speaks in the Quran where He makes forbidden anything that is wicked to the body, meaning harming the body. So we might be eating something that harms the body. And that in itself is not halal to eat then.
I see.
So you see, so it comes from a service and even from a health point of view. This is how we look at halal. And a lot of people will interpret the Islamic connotation.
Sure.
And today we find people see it. And I come from South Africa, like you have so beautifully have said. And in that context, I want to mention that many non-Muslims prefer halal because from a health aspect.
It's interesting. Since you put it that way.
Yeah.
It's only been the past perhaps century or so since we had the Food and Drug Administration.
Yes.
But long before, centuries before that, you had halal. And what reminded me of it was that I have a Filipino friend who's Muslim, and we have a problem with halal in the Philippines.
Yes.
But he was saying that sometimes impressed me as something strange that because of that problem, sometimes he would trust something that is kosher rather than what is halal in the Philippines. But that reminds me the point that you're saying, that it's not merely religious, but it's something that's supposed to be healthy, supposed to be sanitary,
Perfect.
right? Is that? But how do we get that across people? What did you?
Well, you see, from a scientific point of view, and what's so nice here, when I say scientific, when we, like on radios and on television shows, we promote this by
Right.
saying that your health is very important. And Islam tells us we must look after our body from a
Right.
health point of view.
Right.
And it's our duty as Muslims because the Quran speaks. وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ And when we say to the angels, all right, we are going to create on this earth a viceroy. Now, if you pay through the Quran, the Quran is used Khalifa, which English translation is viceroy, but it doesn't give you that understanding it ought to give you.
I see.
And that viceroy means that you have to serve people not the way you feel like,
Right.
but you serve the people what is good for the people.
Right.
And that is where you find it. That when you serve the people, what is good for the people, health is one of the priorities. Because without health, you can't do anything.
Right.
And that is what the halal is all about also.
Right. So how is it done, say in South Africa? Because I think the problem here in the Philippines is that there was some contention about whether or not it was a government agency that was to certify something as halal, or something who was more familiar with the Islamic concept of halal. And as you said, it's much deeper than just merely it's healthy, it's sanitary, it's clean,
Exactly.
it's humanitarian, right? How is it done? What models can we look at, maybe just to have more people trust, the halal seal in other countries like the Philippines? What are the best practices that we can look at?
Yeah, I think it comes back to the educational side of
I
things.
see.
If people wants to be educated that way, because when you educate people, you empower them.
Mm-hmm.
When you empower them with education,
Mm-hmm.
automatically you see the benefits of it.
Mm-hmm.
But if there is ignorance about it,
Yes.
then how can I accept it?
Sure. Sure.
So, and I come over to say that the unfortunate, many years back, it was the understanding this is Islamic concept.
Mm-hmm.
No.
I think the misconception was halal was something exclusively for Muslims,
Which,
which is not.
which
Yeah.
is not.
Yeah.
And it's proven over the years,
Yeah.
not by Muslims,
Yes.
by scientists.
Yes.
So that is how Islam looks at.
Yes.
Islam looks at your health. And a good example to give you, our Prophet even taught us how to eat,
Yes.
let alone what to eat.
Okay.
Where he says to us, you must eat,
Right. Right.
right?
Right.
But when you eat just to keep your backbone up
Okay.
by dividing your stomach into three.
Okay.
One for food,
I
one
see.
third for food, one third for the oxygen, and one third for your water.
It's funny how many people don't grasp that. Islam also covers public health.
That's what I'm saying here. Now, if you look at that, and from that particular angle, like I always say, it's our duty as Muslims to share that. It's not about to convince you to become or to believe it.
Sure.
It's just our educational process.
Sure.
Because we are there to respect one another.
Sure.
Our religion tells us we must respect one another.
Well, as a non-Muslim, I remember a few months ago I was traveling in Europe, and being in a new place, you don't know where to eat.
Yes.
But it served as a good guide for me to see what places were halal. I thought, okay, well, this must be a safe place to eat, for a non-Muslim, right?
Now, if I look at you, what you are saying now, and a person like you saying that
Yeah.
means that you have some education and understanding of what is halal is all about.
Yeah.
Now, this is where it comes into it.
Right.
For the rest, we try to educate and uplift and let them understand from that particular. We don't force it.
Sure.
You don't got the freedom.
Sure. Sure.
And like you find comfort.
Yeah.
So we want people to feel comfort because, you remind me when we look to Islam, Islam is a religion of peace
Right.
and the religion of service people,
Right.
right? We must serve people, right? We must be there for people because our religion tells us, as you know, we pray 5 times a day, for an example.
Mm.
And after every prayer, it is for us to make a prayer to say, our Prophet taught us that, Muhammad, may peace be upon him. He says, Allahumma antas salam. O Allah, O Almighty, you are peace. And from you come peace.
Mm.
So let us live in peace.
Mm.
That is the model that we adopt, and ought to adopt, to promote that, irrespective of how we differ with one another.
Sure. Yeah.
Differ we must have. But I always believe it's not the difference. It is how we respect one another's opinion and difference.
You said that halal is really a very big concept, and it's not just about the economic
Yes.
benefits, but it's undeniable that there is a big economic opportunity.
Yes.
In fact, I think for many in the Philippines who are not familiar with halal and Islam that much, this is their entry point into maybe getting to know more about halal, because they see that there is an economic opportunity as well. Was that covered in the conference that you attended?
I think from that particular angle, it doesn't harm us to utilize it from an
Sure.
economic opportunity.
Sure.
Why not? And I think that's the way to go for the future. Not that I want to say that to promote halal or anything, but from an economic point of view.
Sure.
We speak about approximately between 2.5 or $3 trillion worth of the industry.
Wow.
So it's big.
Yeah.
So any businessman would love to look into it. Why
Right.
not?
Sure.
It doesn't prevent us.
Sure.
So, it's an estimate that the year 2050, all right, the majority of the people in Europe will be Muslims. So which means the demand is going to be for halal.
Also in Europe. Wow.
Yes. So why not take the opportunity
Right, right,
from a business point of view? Prepare
Right.
yourselves now already
right.
and do it, whatever. So Islam doesn't prevent us from making a business opportunity. In
Right.
fact, encourage us, but do it the right way.
Right. How do you think, just from your perspective, how do you think we can elevate, you think, the way people perceive halal, maybe to a point where we see it at par with, say, an ISO certification or something to that effect, right? Or maybe FDA approval, like a Food and Drug Administration approval. Uh, the you said education is an
Yeah.
important thing. I think you probably agree with me. There's also some bias, I guess, from non-Muslims. They don't understand what Islam is. But how do we address that? I mean, so that, as you said, it's really not just for Muslim. It's really for the health and benefit of
Yeah,
everyone.
I
Really.
think it comes back to us as people in the position that we find ourselves in. I give you an example. I got a radio program in South Africa every Thursday nights.
Okay.
And I speak to non-Muslim. It's a government radio station. And we try to let people understand this. The government give us this opportunity to
Okay.
speak about Islam.
Okay.
And let people understand it. So I think I come back to say, it is also then the duty of the certifier to enlighten the business people also, that to say to them, this is not about only that is a stamp like that. No,
Yeah.
right? It is something that
It's something more. Yeah.
yeah, it's something more than what we want.
Yeah.
And what we want is to make people healthy, to make people aware, and in the same time, right, make people aware that Islam is not the religion maybe the way you understood it to be.
Right.
And I think that's also a very important aspect, because somehow or the other, sometimes what we do find is a misunderstanding of Islam,
Sure.
right? And I think it's an opportunity for us also to speak it from that line. And coming back to say that it comes back to the understanding, like we have said earlier on, is about education.
You're right.
Because I believe education, like I said, is empowerment, and it gives you the empowerment of understanding. And when you have an understanding, you incline to differ much better with respect.
Yes. I think it makes for a better world with understanding.
That's exactly what we
Yeah.
are. And under these circumstances,
Yeah.
we need a better world.
Yeah. Can I rephrase my question a bit and
Yeah, sure.
and maybe try to ask it this way? How is, and this may come off as an ignorant question, so I apologize at the beginning.
No problem.
It's only out of curiosity, but not out of
Yes,
disrespect.
sure,
But
sure.
Is there maybe, for example, you came from South Africa, you're familiar with halal standards, others elsewhere in the world. When you came here to the Philippines, are there any differences in the standards of what maybe Filipinos would consider halal as compared to maybe what you would consider as halal, maybe you see in South Africa or maybe in Saudi Arabia or something like that? Is it the same level of halal that you
Yeah.
encountered here as you would in others? That's what I mean. Maybe when I say that you want to elevate that concept at par with, say, maybe an ISO certification or some other international standard, or is there room for maybe the local, I suppose, experts, right, to
Yeah.
maybe set standards on what is good enough as halal,
Yeah.
as opposed to what is ideal
Yeah.
halal? Yeah.
I think what is very important, when you find halal in South Africa, you expect it to be the same standard within Manila.
Okay.
There's one standard.
Yes.
It's either it's halal or
It's not halal. Okay.
Right? There's no in between.
Right.
Right? And I think from that particular, and therefore I feel like you so beautifully said, when you went to Europe, you saw halal and you will feel comfortable.
Yes.
Because it's the same standard that we follow.
Yes.
There's no such thing that Manila can follow a different standard, but it's all the same standard. Because when something is halal, it's halal. So I think from that particular angle, one feels comfortable.
Right.
Because you understand that when there is something halal, that is one standard, irrespective of which part of the world you find yourself.
Right.
Right? And I think that in itself is tells us, it's like when I find a Muslim in South Africa or a Muslim in Manila or any place else, it's the same. Right? Islam is the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that is where I come in to say that from an Islamic perspective is that we believe in Islam that wherever that Muslim is, he got a duty and to serve Islam in the correct manner. In the correct manner, not the way he or she feels like. I want to use this maybe an example just to express myself in a more what we call in a more lighter note.
Sure.
When you get married, you say I do,
Okay.
and the wife say I do,
Yes.
right?
Okay.
To me, that is a contract that you sign,
Yes.
a verbal contract.
Yes.
Now, to us in Islam, we believe that is a contract you sign in the heavens, that you will look and do what the Almighty tells you to do and to look after your wife. It's not just words. Now, the same concept we apply. When you have there to say that is halal, it's not something that you have made halal.
Right.
It's already there. You're doing your duty, you're carrying out your responsibility.
Okay.
And I think from that, as like you have said, you feel comfortable when you saw it. So
Right.
we as Muslims feel comfortable when we see the halal.
Right. Right.
Right? So that individual is doing his duty and responsibility.
Right.
And if it fails, he's responsible for it. He must be answerable for it, or she, for
I
that
see.
matter.
I see.
Right? So you can see, you look at it at a different level. Right? So when you're a husband, you're not doing your wife favors. You're doing the duty that is placed onto you, and vice versa.
Right. Right.
Right? So maybe it's a bad comparison, but like I say, on a lighter note, but that is what I'm trying to express. It's about a duty that you perform. Right.
That's very interesting. I wonder if you can talk about maybe your work, in South Africa and maybe elsewhere, in maybe how you engage the private sector, right? To what maybe if you can think about maybe some success stories where you had a good cooperation between the Islamic community and convincing a private company to also adopt halal. Maybe that would
Yeah.
be a very interesting
I think what
story.
yeah, I think what is, first of all, we say you got freedom. Meaning that if you want to apply for halal, it's your choice.
Sure. You don't
Right?
force anyone.
We
yeah.
don't force anyone.
Yes.
And neither we try to convince anyone.
Sure.
We give them the comfort to say, I want to go halal, and why.
Right.
Now, why do I say why? So that we can know that it's not for the wrong reasons, but for the right ones. Meaning that when you say that, how can we help you further than that? Because remember, I said Islam is a religion of service.
Sure.
So when you say that to us, now how can we help you to serve your aims and your objects? Right? And I think from that, we just mentioning that in the car when we came here now to your headquarters here, we just mentioned casually, also discussing with my colleague, to say, how is it that we say to the people, we are here to help you? You want to make business? How can we help you to make business? Right? But in the same
That's
time,
a very powerful proposition.
but in the same time, we thank you for what? For providing a service for people to eat halal. I come from a country where we as Muslims are the minority.
Right.
So when a non-Muslim wants to apply for halal, for him might be a business. But I thank him for providing
Providing a
us with a
service,
service
Yeah.
so that I can have an outlet to go and eat what is halal.
Right.
Exactly what you have said. When you went to Europe, there was outlets for you to find comfort
Sure.
to go and eat. Same concept here. And when you speak to them like that, by saying we are here to help you and thank you for that service, they start to thank you. Because that is how one has to be approached. You remind me of a close colleague of mine. It's a non-Muslim. He's a professor at one of the universities in South Africa. Now, whenever we meet, he will always say to me, I look forward always to meet you. He tells me that. I say, why? Am I that unique? What do you must? I say, no. because it's the first time that he hears firsthand from us, from, what they call a sheikh's mouth, from Islam, how Islam is all about. He had a misconcept about it, right? I say, unfortunately, this is what is happening in the world. There's a misconcept, and people jump to conclusion. And so much so now that he is just, whenever he wants to eat, he looks for halal also. Because I've explained to him what is halal. Not to convince him, but he also, same question. So he's and being a professor, he did his homework. And he went to research, and he come back to me and he says to me, "Is this what Islam speaks to you about?" I say, "Yes, Islam is a religion that not only looks after your spirit, but also looks
your
after
body,
your health.
yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
And you got the responsibility as a human being to give it its rights by doing what is right." And that's what it is all about,
Yeah.
So you have this, yes, even on radio, sometimes people will call in and tell you, we never understood it that way. But thank you for that. So I think what is important for us to do is, again, promote that concept of educating people to let them understand better what Islam is all about.
Something that's bothered me
Yes.
for a long time now. So when I look at 20th century history, particularly when you did go back to, for example, I'm a big fan of sports. So I remember Muhammad Ali,
Yes.
the Vietnam War, and in that era, and this goes to what you were saying, that Islam is a religion of peace. That if you rejected war and violence, right? That many people looked at Islam, right?
Yeah.
I remember Muhammad Ali being a
Yeah.
conscientious objector.
And he refused to go to the army to go and fight.
Yes.
At that time.
Because you believe in peace. But fast forward to today, and of course we have problems.
Yeah.
I think a lot of problems with misconceptions about Islam. Perhaps because maybe we see the fundamentalists. But in fairness, there are fundamentalists in almost all religions.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
even Catholics, right?
Yes.
But how did we get to this point, you think, that we sort of went from, like, in a matter of decades, right, from seeing Islam as the religion that was against war, against violence, right, to now, is it because of the media, you think, that maybe we see Islam as now, we almost relate it somehow to fundamentalism, which is unfair, right? Because it's the fundamentalists do not represent the entire religion.
That's exactly what it is. The unfortunate thing, what I find, is, like you say, the call it the extremists, the fundamentalists, they seems to have the coverage better than what we promote as peaceful people.
Yeah.
Now, this is the unfortunate thing.
Yes.
Is it done purposely? I don't know.
Yeah.
We must look at it. But give us the opportunity also, the coverage, so that we can promote that this is Islam.
Sure.
Islam is a religion of peace.
Sure.
Like you say, Muhammad Ali, for an example.
Yes.
He refused to go to fight.
Yeah.
To him at that time, he was fined and he was jailed for it.
Yes.
So if you look at that,
he lost his title.
he lost his title for that
Yeah.
matter. And
Yeah.
I think that in itself tells us that we get that real coverage that we ought to get. Because what I find also, which is very important for me, is whenever one Muslim does something, we say Islamic fundamentalists. Don't attach it to Islam, attach it to that person.
Right.
Because you never hear when a non-Muslim or a Christian, or for that matter,
Christian fundamentalist.
you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So, an utmost of respect, right? Attach it to that individual. Don't judge Islam through an individual. Rather, judge Islam according to his divine revelation. And I think that, unfortunately, which I find in the media quite often, where they attach something to the Islamic fundamentalists, where they give the religion, which is unfair.
Yeah.
I think it's a very unfair. What about the billions of us
Sure.
that promotes peace, that live in peace? You speak about that. I live in South Africa, like you know, in Cape Town, where all my neighbors are non-Muslims, but we live in love and harmony. And you reminded me also of something that I must mention now. That I got a program on the radio, like I told you, South Africa. There was one gentleman, he follows it. without me realizing, without me knowing. So he called me one day. He said, I'm a person, Christian, that listens to your program every Thursday. And I'm coming to Cape Town. I'm from Pretoria.
Okay.
I want to come and visit. I said, you come to my house. Right? So I brought him to my house. And of course, we do what we have to do, and it's your guest. You know, you entertain. And then when I finished, he wanted to thank me so much. I said, don't thank me. He said, why? Because I'm doing my duty towards you. You're my guest. And Islam tells me how I must treat my guests, irrespective of what your religion is. So you got a shock.
Okay.
He said, what? I said, yes, that's my duty. And you know what? So what happened? He phoned me a couple of weeks after that, and he was in the church, and the priester was preaching anti-Islamic views. Right? I'm just narrating what he has said.
Okay.
So he stood up, he said, sorry, sir. A couple of weeks back, I was in the house of a Muslim, and it was a sheikh. And he treated me that no other person in this church has treated me.
Right.
So it's not what you are saying.
Right.
So what I'm saying here is that the media gets the coverage of that individual, the extremist, and attach it to Islam. Here we find a person that has been given the opportunity to see what Islam is, could stand up and say to a person, that is not right. And it comes back to that, where unfortunately we don't get that media coverage.
Yeah.
Exactly what you were saying. And these are the individuals that gets it. Right? And we attach it to Islam. Why don't we say that's Islamic value system? When I do something good as a Muslim, for an example, towards anyone, we don't get that. So I think from that particular angle is that, yes, the media maybe to a certain extent doesn't give us that coverage that Islam is a religion of peace, Islam is a religion of love, Islam is a religion of caring, and Islam is a religion of what is my duty to do, not what is my rights first.
Right.
You know, I always say when we speak about rights, we put the volume 10. When we speak about duty, we turn it down to volume 2. Keep it on volume 10, because that is what our duty is. And once we do that in the world, can the world be I always say that the world is a paradise to be in.
Sure. How do you think, what can be done, you think, can to maybe to increase, understanding? It's good. I mean, that you open your house to a friend, but we're talking about a world that has 7 billion people.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you think that, what can be done by, to maybe to have more dialogue? You think more? I think that beautiful story you said is just a simple visit.
Yeah.
Turn out to be a mind opening experience for someone who doesn't know your religion.
I say always, things start at home first. First clean in front of your house before you start brooding other people's house. So, but at the end of the day is, I come back to say, yes, I look at me for an example that I am at a mosque.
Sure.
Where every Friday we preach to about between 4,000 and 5,000 people. All right. And we welcome non-Muslims to come and attend. Come and attend, see what we do.
Just to watch, to
come
observe.
on a Friday. All right. Now, as you know, Friday we got a special
It's a prayer day.
As a prayer day, and we invite them.
Yeah.
And so many of them comes. The other day I had a group from Germany coming, and they were shocked.
Yeah.
They were German people, and they asked me, can we come to the mosque? I was welcome. So that is basically where I feel the interaction is much more effective.
Yeah.
And of course, the media can be used.
Sure.
But I think that one-on-one, to me, it's a very important aspect.
Sure.
Because now you can feel free to question and to have answers, question and answers.
Sure.
And I looked at brother for an example, how many people that he has now got in touch with and say, this is what Islam is all about. And I think from that, we got to start somewhere.
Sure.
Some or the other.
Do you feel that maybe the world is sort of sliding backwards? Or do you feel any pressure, for instance, about your faith because of what's happening in the world right now, particularly in Israel and Palestine? There are a lot of terrible things that are going on.
Sure.
And when we talk to our Jewish friends, they say, of course, they focus on the atrocities on October 7th. But people are remind them that look, there's also atrocities in how they reacted. But I think their point was, how come the other side, talking about the Palestinians, are not talking about or condemning or renouncing the violence as well. It seems like a very convoluted
Yeah.
discourse.
I
How do
think,
we get out of that?
I think what is very important for me is something which I want to mention
Yeah.
in these circumstances. South Africa found itself in a similar scenario of apartheid.
Sure.
You all know Nelson Mandela.
Sure.
Nelson Mandela was in jail for 27 years.
Yes.
And he was regarded as a terrorist.
Yes.
Now, why was he regarded as a terrorist?
Yes.
That is the important aspect we must look at.
Right.
He was regarded as a terrorist because he was asking for his rights. And all of us, for that matter. Anyone that was speaking at that time of the apartheid, you were regarded as a terrorist. So we must look at that particular concept. And afterwards, Nelson Mandela became the most beloved person whenever we go. I can remember at that time when I traveled, I said, Nelson Mandela? Nelson Mandela was more known than South Africa. So what we are saying here is the concept that has been promoted. At the time, Nelson Mandela was banned. The African National Congress was banned as a terrorist organization.
Sure.
And afterwards, they became the government of the day because people came to realize, no, basic things they're asking for. So if you look at from that particular angle, one has to visit that. And I think the Secretary General of the United Nations made a good statement when he said,
Guterres, yeah.
yeah, he said something nice. The retaliation wasn't in a vacuum. The reaction wasn't in a vacuum. Something happened.
Yes.
So one has to look at within that context.
Well, my
Of
point.
course, we condemn violence.
Sure.
Of course, we condemn to kill innocent civilians.
Of course.
There's no place for Islam for that.
Yes.
But however, one has to look at certain things within the context.
Yeah.
And I think coming from South Africa, I can understand when I look to the story of the Nelson Mandela story.
Sure.
Right? It's a powerful story in the context that
It's
we are
a
looking
powerful
at.
story, yeah. But I guess the question is, where do we go from here, and what role do you think that the Islamic community can play? What role can we play as we're part of the Christian community? Can we play so that maybe it's so difficult because I said that
Yeah, I think the problem that you have here is, I think maybe I'm very naive when I say it. I think the NGOs should be the governing of the country, the NGOs, and take the politicians a bit away.
Okay.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes,
So
yes.
that we can look in the interest of the people.
Sure.
What is there for the people?
Sure.
And why do I say that? Because I look at the politician, everyone claims to serve us. So where did it go wrong?
Yeah.
Right? And I think that in itself, once you do not put the people first,
Yeah.
right? There is that concept, chosen by the people, governed by the people, and we are there for the people. If you do apply that concept, then what went wrong there?
Yeah, I wonder if you can educate me a bit about you, since you mentioned Nelson Mandela. I remember reading his book, The Long Road to Freedom,
Yes.
a long time ago, and in his book, he did consider terrorism as a legitimate means of protest. But when he got out, as you said,
You stopped it.
a totally different point of view.
Yes.
Does it take a remarkable man like Nelson Mandela to do that, or is it something like common people like us can?
Yeah.
Also-
I think rather let us do our contribution, each one of us.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at Nelson Mandela, it was a resistance. It wasn't really what we call terrorism, it was resistance.
Yes. Yes.
Because our rights was taken away.
You're right.
Now, when you resist, people take you as a terrorist.
Right.
And I think from that particular angle, I would say yes. You remind me. I made a joke at the time when I said the world need another Nelson Mandela. All right,
I think we may need many Nelson Mandelas.
yes, because if I look what Nelson Mandela has done, not only to South Africa alone,
To the world.
to the world.
Yes.
So I think he's a real example for us. But I come back to say is, let me start with me first. What is it that I can do, rather than what I can take? And I think Nelson Mandela come from that school of thought to say, what is it that I must do to make this world a better world? And not only South Africa for that matter. And I think that in itself, and it's so nice you brought it up, because being a South African, you can speak from that perspective, an understanding, a deeper understanding. And therefore I say, let us start first. And you know what we have now also, we call it the Mandela Day. One day in the year where everyone must do something for the sake of Mandela, to remind us what Mandela has done. Whatever good you can do, even for an hour. Are you going to feed somebody? Are you going to supply this? Or are you going to help a person for that particular day? So Nelson Mandela has left that with us also. So in the same time, we can say to the world, let us have a Nelson Mandela International Day. And I use the term Mandela, International Day, to see what we can contribute as individuals to make this world a better day, a better world. And I think that is, to me, also a very important aspect. Because let us use him. He's an icon.
Yes.
Let us use him.
Yeah.
His name, for that matter. And maybe start there also.
Yeah, he's a very wise man.
Yeah.
I want to get your reaction on another thing I've read it, some time ago, and the book, ironically, was titled, "What if there was no Islam?" And the point of the book was that many of the things that we see in the world now really can be explained because of an anti-colonial surge. Maybe there's some economic factors to it, but that the role of religion, in particular Islam, was mainly to, I suppose, assign a morality to the cause.
Yes.
Which was really, at the core, economic or geopolitical, but really it wasn't about religion.
In every aspect of your life, for that matter, that
Yeah.
was it. Yeah, I think what is important for us to understand, Islam governs your entire life. Meaning, when I say governs, I mean in every aspect how to live with one another. All right? From the economic point of view, how do we do that? And also, I think, to me personally, what is very important is that I call it the man-made geographical boundaries. If you look at how the country, the world has been set out, who made that boundaries? Now we are human beings, right? Between us shouldn't be boundaries. I should respect you.
Sure.
Not because you're
We
from
need to learn how to live with each other.
We have to live. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Now I think once we promote that concept,
Yeah.
right, that our human factor that comes in from every aspect of our life, irrespective of where you find yourself,
Yeah.
then this world would have been a wonderful world.
Let me bring it back to halal, which is where we started. You've been here only a few days, I
Yeah,
assume,
yeah.
but this is not your first visit to the Philippines. I wanted to get your impressions about maybe was it difficult for you to find a place to eat? Was it a concern? Was there something that you think the Philippines could do more to be a more welcoming place for people of Islamic faith?
Yeah, I think from that particular angle, yes, to a certain extent, the business people in particular, from an eating point of view, I think there is room for improvement.
Yeah.
Right? Why do I say that? Not because of anything, but from an aspect of, I look at coming from Cape Town.
Sure.
I can go in Cape Town and will find easily halal.
Yeah. Yeah.
You hear my point?
Not so easy in Manila.
Now that is what I say. The challenging there is now. Why do I mention this? I'm not mentioning this only from an Islamic perspective. I even mentioning the interest of the country for that
Sure.
matter, from a Torah's point of view.
Sure.
Right? You'll find people come to Cape Town, South Africa, because from the Middle East. Because I don't call it halal friendly. I call it there's a lot of places for halal to eat.
Okay.
Therefore, they come also there.
Yeah.
Now, if you have that available in Manila
Yeah.
or in Philippines for that matter,
Yeah.
so you promote the economy of your country.
Yeah.
It's not about the halal concept alone.
Sure.
It's also about that.
Sure.
And I think that to me is also important for the business operations and of course for the government and for the country of Philippines, where today tourism is a very lucrative industry. Halal promotes it. In fact, in Cape Town, we find, I'm not speaking about the national government, but our regional government promotes it heavily, the halal, and yet it's non-Muslim.
Right.
Because they see the tourists. What do they say from that angle? I'm speaking now from the Cape Town point of view.
Sure.
For every 8 tourists that comes to South Africa, Cape Town, there's 1 job created. And you see how they look at it. Now, If they get Muslims coming to South Africa, being halal where they can find it, if you have 1 million coming for the year, how many jobs you have created?
Yeah, a
And I
lot.
look at from that particular angle,
Yeah,
that look what you give to the country,
yeah,
look what empowerment of labor comes into it. So you're not looking at the halal as a halal from Islamic, but you
Sure.
look at also from a economic point of view, from a labor point of view, and it can only enhance the country,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and promote it. Whereby tomorrow I will say no, Philippines is good. I was speaking. I say I love Philippines because of the people,
Thank you.
and any country for that matter. It's about the people. But you can make it more beloved if it's more accessible,
Hmm.
and for your good self also, from a labor point of view, if there's more halal places available.
Is there a role that government can play, or maybe when it comes to halal certification, it has to be purely, a community expertise to certify
Yeah, I
something
think
as
I
halal?
think you have got a good advantage here. You have the Islamic Dawah Council of Philippines,
Okay.
which plays a major role. It's a mother. I call it the king of halal,
Okay.
because being in the World Halal Council, that we know one another through the World Halal Council, and we see the role the Islamic Dawah Council of Philippines is playing. They can help. They are there for them. They are there.
Right.
How can we promote it? How can we help it? And so are we
Yeah.
to our government. I've just mentioned you
The regional.
the regional
Yeah,
government.
yeah.
They come to us and they
Yeah.
promote it, and they look how they analyze it already.
Right.
And I think if the government can do that,
Yeah.
right, the job creation and all that, it can only be a blessing for the country.
But in your government, the regional government, do they certify or they only
No.
they promote?
No, they promote it. The advantage that we have is that our government has taken a stance. We don't interfere with religion.
I see. So
For
that's
this-
where the separation. Yeah.
For the simple reason
Yeah.
is we have so many religions.
Yes.
All right. So if we interfere in the religion, we got to interfere with everybody's religion. We cannot
Right.
be,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So from that particular angle, our government took that stand. As far as
Right.
that halal, it belongs to the Muslim. The same thing like kosher belongs to the Jews.
Right.
We're not interfering, but
Right.
we're promoting it.
Right. Right.
So from that particular angle, is they consult with us, we interact with them, right? And of course, like I say to you, they once a while they will have what we call halal exhibitions, and make people aware of it. So we are fortunate in that regard. You know, anything pertaining to Islam, they don't interfere with.
Very good. Well, Sheikh, it's very, very nice talking to you. It's been a pleasure. I hope your visit to the Philippines has been enjoyable and it's not been all work.
I think, yeah, I must admit, I was telling my colleague, Attorney Lanzak, that you have made my problem. You interfere in my marriage life, because my wife loves the Philippines so much with the kindness they have entertained us yesterday and before that. So now she said to me, now I can understand when you have said Philippines is one of the best countries I love, because the people makes it so. So I can tell you, I always enjoy coming to the Philippines.
Thank you, sir. Despite the what, how many days did it take you to travel? More than 24 hours.
They say it's cruel to be beautiful, right?
Okay.
So to have enjoyable is you must sacrifice.
Okay. Sheikh,
So it's a sacrifice. I don't think it's so much the sacrifice; it's the joy that you are looking forward, right? And the pains of that travel, you don't worry about.
well, it's a pleasure talking to you. I hope that you're always welcome to come back here when you are in Manila. I hope that we're able to somehow help you get the word out and maybe educate more people about halal and about a number of the Islamic topics that we've talked
Well,
about
I
today.
must also take the opportunity to thank Manila Times and your good selves for giving me the opportunity. Indeed, you let me love Manila more now, Philippines much more now, for
Thank you,
giving
sir.
us these opportunities. And I think what is important is a matter of how can we contribute to make it better. That's all. It's our duty,
Right.
all right? And I think that in itself is my Islamic responsibility and duty. How do we can contribute to make it a better world? And I thank you once again, Manila Times and your good selves, for giving that opportunity.
Thank you, sir. All right. Thanks.